They cast themselves as the villain, and now they want to rewrite the story.
Not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
My God.
Something has changed. I have to believe it's getting better, not worse, because we don't need any of that. But something's different, and I've been seeing 53 on the clock almost every time for at least 3 days. 53, that's 8, the universe, infinity. Divine intervention. Something in the wind. Some pretty intense spiritual warfare overnight, last night, but more the night before. You know, if you just, it's not a bad mood, but if you wake up just confrontational, you know that you've been at it all night long. You've been fighting who knows what. And I can't decide if it's progress or not, or protection. When you can't remember the details of it, it means you're not supposed to, I think. You're better off not knowing. You remember the tone, not the details. It's difficult with technology now too, because there were signs. First of all, you have to suspend all disbelief of what I'm about to say. If you're not open, understand that the things that you may not understand are being mimicked in the technology realm. So you talk about clairvoyance or clairaudience, and there are people and groups seeking to control that or replicate it, or both. And the discernment involved in the overlap, overlay, and blocking of divine frequencies and signals that we all intrinsically are getting, whether we're aware of them or not, whether we're awake or not, whether our pineal gland is functional or not, whether there's fluoride in our water shutting our neurologic system down, whether there's some other toxin that we've consumed, some other thing that we've eaten or had in our drinks. Some even argue sugar, and then the ones against that argue the sweeteners. Understand that everything is poison. It's just where you're drawing the line. Alcohol is poison. It's all poison. Preservatives, poison. It's all poison. Do I consume them? Yes. You can tell when you've had too much of some of it, though, because you get blocked. And that's what they want. That's what they want. But the people building the false reality are a different kind of dysfunction. Some of the, let's call them additives or supplements, I actually think are being placed for the opposite. It's to make the false more powerful than the universal default. I'm seeing scalar waves on the water coming from the wind right now, which reminds me of the science behind it that I've watched on programs and so forth. You have the natural version of the scalar effect, And then you also can have a synthetic one. So while this wind is natural, right? And it's causing the same patterns with the same rippling effect that you can make with RF frequencies and a device. Or, if it's light, you can do it with crystals, with the quartz crystals, or microwaves even. Do the fish know? Do the turtles know the waves are synthetic or native, real? No. Probably not. They just know if they're different than they've always been. Something's changed. We don't know what has changed, but these waves used to be closer together. They used to be from this direction, and now they're from this other direction. And if you think about it, we're in the same boat, some of us more than others, but with even knowing which direction the wind normally comes in a location. If you aren't from there, if you don't know that when the storm comes, it comes from this way usually, and usually takes 30 minutes to get from this city to this city, we have all these tools to help us that track with history. But you have to remember, those tracking only go back as long as the same tools that we're manipulating. So when you look at earthquakes, well, we have records for 100 years, for sure. But in at least 50 of those years, you have synthetic, probably more than 50 years, you have synthetic things. When they do mining, and when they do drilling, and when they do tunneling, and vibrational collapses of structure with something like explosives, but not even like explosives. There's documented cases of that have been, they're not widely publicized, but they're not hidden either. It's not like a secret. That the example of this is, have you ever turned your bass up so loud on your car that you can see like the glass in your door frame kind of like almost deconstructing? Well, that can be done on a large scale too. You get enough energy and magnetic frequency and a big enough amp or bass, and you can shake a lot more than your car window. So it's still very much just observe. And I'm reminded of something that came at me 5 years ago, almost to the day. And I've just confirmed that it was basically what I thought it was. And in the moment, in the situation, I didn't have enough data to know if it was synthetic or real. And it was purposely made to be deceiving. And if I had cast judgment, that was a trap. But if I had gone along with it, that was also a setup. So there was no winning there. And I was guided to document it, memorialize it, file it away, including, in a way that could be traced by others, not just by me, in case it came back, but to let it go and walk away. And that discernment, it came from inside me, but it was divine intervention. Any other normal reaction would have been to judge those waves coming at you and reflect them back or manipulate them in another way for protection, but also that's how we transmute. But I knew not to do that. And I didn't have all the information. It's not like that. It's not like an ego kind of Scooby-Doo ending, all right? Like, I know you were up to blah, 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 blah. No. It was discernment and taking the least caustic, the least destructive exit, and giving it time to sort or neutralize. And sometimes that's all you can do, is not make it worse. Because you don't know what's coming at you. You just know it's not the same as it was. It's changed. It's different. And maybe it's good and maybe it's bad and maybe it's neither. It's the only reason I'm standing here today, is because I did what I did. And no one may ever understand that, but the lesson is still there. Don't judge what you don't have the full picture of, but don't let it go either. Everything is revealed on a timeline, and you can either be part of that, or you can die on a sword for a cause that you may not even understand or know. Or you might even actually be with them in ideology and like mindset. Some of the things they were doing against me is something that probably would have been a good tactic to do on a criminal. They just had the wrong person. You don't know what you don't know. And there are a lot of people that are just gunning for a solution because of the frustration that we have all. This has taken too long. 5 years interrupted, for sure. Longer for many of us. Of uncertainty, of disruption, of not being in purpose. You can't save everyone either. Everyone has to take their own discernment and their own free will and make the choices. And sometimes that includes walking away, not making it worse, and protecting yourself. Just because what's coming at you doesn't understand. But you can't tell them. Not in that moment. You can try, but the minute you see that they're not accepting what you're saying, don't double down. Stand on what you've said and give them space to figure it out and adjust. The biggest disappointment is I know that they came to and figured it out, and no one's tried to fix it. Like, getting them to stop shouldn't be a lot of effort, but getting them to reverse something that they've already doubled down on and already kind of made if it's a mistake, maybe it was supposed to happen this way. Some of us are put in places to stop things that are off the rails. You'll know if it comes at you. You were placed there because they've done it 5 times before. And the ones that came before you did not survive what they did to you. They're gone. They're wounded or gone. And so, yeah, they keep going, they keep getting away with something. Eventually, somebody strong enough is going to be put in their path to stop them. That's how it works. You're not going to get away with... You never see the only bank robbers that get interviewed, for example, are the ones that have been caught, all right? How many of them went and did one heist too many? What was that movie? This is the retirement heist, you know? But then they get caught. I guess you could argue that they keep going because they have to get caught. Because that's why they're here, to learn their lesson. But when you start going down these paths, you get into the matrix, and Earth is a school, and we're here to learn our lessons and to have an experience. And we don't necessarily know who we are on the other side, but I'm probably sitting next to somebody that attacked me, and we're friends on the other side. I don't have a problem with their soul. They're just playing their bit. This is who they are in this incarnation. This is what they're doing, and they're going to do it until they don't do it anymore because somebody stops them. That's easy enough to buy into and understand, right? But when you start having the manipulation of the false matrix on top of the real matrix, the God versus the manipulative false matrix, that's kind of like, you know, the overlapping frequencies, the technology that's intrusive to spirituality, the telepathy differences between synthetic and real, and then there's the outright criminals that are actually, you know, scamming, stealing, and trying to take material wealth. It's gotten too complicated. So in this kind of final showdown, I guess, you know, 5 and 3, 53, 8, this is it. It might behoove you to walk away rather than double down. Unless you're really certain and you've been guided, because there are so many things on both sides, synthetic and actual reality, that are getting in the way of each other. Somebody's backing it up. There's a beep sound, so we'll back up. I have to believe that this is close to over, and that we're on our way to our highest, and the ones that are remaining are the survivors of it. There's some that are, you know, obviously still asleep and aren't really participating. There's some that don't want to know what they don't know, and there's some that they've already served their purpose, and now they're kind of just having the experience part. And there's some of us that are kind of waiting for a conclusion, because it's not that we need the closure, it's we need the signal to be able to move on. And like a plane in holding, which there was a plane earlier and now there's a bird flying above. You know, planes often do that pattern of a whole, when they're not cleared for landing. And some of us have been in a holding pattern. And it's not that we need to see some huge kind of, I don't know what you'd equate it to in 3D. It could be like a, not even, it could be a it could be a non-news item. But we need the signal that it's clear, you're clear to land. Right on cue, there's a plane. It's time to land the planes. It's time to bring them in. If you're sitting on something that is preventing an ending or a beginning, it could be either, it's probably the time that if you can safely release it, you should do so. If it's not going to harm you, you should absolutely do it. If it's not going to harm somebody else, I don't have to tell you this. You've reflected on it for yourself, for your situation. But if you're on the edge, don't. Don't even think twice anymore. Because we're moving on. The planes will land and take off again. This is over.
Calzone!